Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Music Lab podcast. My name is Dogg, and I'm so excited to be back with all of you for another episode of the podcast. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, our social media pages. That helps us, and that helps the bands, artists, and industry people like Mr. Jimmy. Also, check out our sponsor, RAR Outfitters. That's RAWR, outfitters.com. Don't just wear RAR. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am so excited. We have been trying to get you on for the last month. Mr. Jimmy Gaio, how are you today?
Hey, I'm great, man. Yeah, sorry. Summer's a little weird. It can get busy, and this summer was no different. So, but I'm glad to have been able to find the time.
Yeah, man. Well, you wear a lot of hats, so I appreciate your busyness. You have every excuse or every reason to do what you do. So let's talk about first your hat, one of your hats. You are the GM of Mickey's Black Box. Mickey's Black Box is a concert venue in Lititz, Pennsylvania, on the campus of Rock Lititz. How did that all happen? What's the story behind this?
So, the music business and the live concert business in particular can be very nepotistic, I guess, to say the word. So my sister was working with Rock Lititz, doing some stuff with the studios and whatnot. And this position came up. And I live in Philadelphia, and most of my life is in Philadelphia. But Lititz is an hour and 15 minutes away. So I went up there a couple times. They gave me a tour of the place, and it is a black box. So there's really no identity to it. And it was just opening. And it's rare that you get to jump into something at the beginning, right? Like more often than not in life, when we do take on something, it's usually in the middle. It might feel like the beginning to us, but in the big picture, you're just being dropped in there, right? And so that was very appealing to me. And they, I don't think it was completely understood how this room was going to be used. Uh, but it was apparent that it needed to be managed by more than just one person. And Margaret, who is, you know, she's everything. She's, HR, contracts, legal, everything. And, she's not trained in any of that. Her degree's in psychology, right? But she just kind of, there were these gaps and she filled them. And, but one of the gaps was the gaps that I filled are the ones that you really do need to have experience or you're going to get taken advantage of quite a bit. And that's in booking and actual production of a concert. Um, so we work pretty well together. She's very good at the things that I hate to do, and I'm really good at the things that she doesn't feel great about doing. So it works out good.
Kind of
But
like
yeah,
your work wife, huh?
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
So talk about the capacity and the flexibility that Mickey's Black Box has that's kind of unlike any other venue.
well, so it's some might say over engineered. I think it's perfectly engineered. Um, so it's either um, 350 capacity theater, and we do that by hooking up chains to the floor and lifting the floor to the ceiling. And there's 108 theater seats underneath that get lifted up, and the floor becomes the ground, or the floor becomes the stage because the front row is 3 feet down into the floor. So we then take, with the 30 by, I don't know, 30 by 28 foot stage. We tear that down and we use that to build riser seating behind the theater seating, which gives us an additional 100 seats. And then the balcony and the mezzanines hold 142. Um, and we can basically we can flip the room, go from theater by, in a couple of hours. And it's pretty quick. And then we can also go from, then when we go into a GA configuration, it's 650 people.
Okay.
I think we could probably do, if we had sets of wide open doors in the front and maybe a couple more bathrooms, I think our capacity probably should be closer to 800.
Okay.
Because even when the thing is sold out, it's roomy. But you just put the floor back on. We build a Tate stage on the end, put barricade in front of it, and you can, it's a full on concert. And there's been times like, particularly like, I think it was like the Overkill show. It was Overkill, Accept, and it was just a great crowd, energetic, fists in the air, and I'm like, this actually feels like a club. And then we do Rocky Horror Picture Show there with a local company every year. It's become a tradition, and it really does feel like a theater when you're executing, the right show in the right way. It's like, and it is. And we do weddings there. We've done corporate gatherings where we're in theater mode during the morning sessions, where they do their seminars and town halls and whatnot, and then they go to dinner, and then they come back for the evening gala, and the floor is down, DJ set, and it's a complete transformation. And that's a wow factor, right? That clients who do rent the room are like, yeah, that was kind of cool, so.
So talk about the sound. What kind of sound system does Mickey's have?
Well, we have a Claire Cohesion 10 rig. We had an 8 in there for a while, but then Claire started using our room as like a showcase room. So when they want to do demos for prospective clients, they bring them to Mickey's. It's a pretty dead room. You can actually hear your words fall to the ground as you speak them sometimes. It doesn't. So it's a they've come in and made some recommendations for sound improvements and stuff, and Mickey is very all about that. He doesn't want to, he's a very efficient guy and very practical, but always wants the room to be as tight as it can be and as good as it can be. So now we have the Co-10s and a center hang of subs, and it's deceptively loud with the new PA, especially the low end. It's weird because we'll look at the meter and they'll be like, how are we at 115 right now? It doesn't feel like we're at 115, and it's just because of the science of audio. And those guys, like, they're different. They're built different. We were in there once when they were setting up a demo, and we're like, obviously a lot of Steely Dan, and it was all day. And so I was like, everything all right? And this dude was like chasing this little hump that I don't even know if he could hear it, but he knew it was there and had to figure it out. And it's pretty interesting to watch those guys, like what pushes them, because they really are, they're just scientists, and and their chosen area of study is sound, and it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I want to talk about, because you've been in this business for a while now, like the evolution of like the lighting for concerts. I mean, it's just incredible now. Like the technology, I guess, is allowing that to happen, or is it more just a creative mind, or is it a little bit of both?
It's well, I think you reach this anytime something new comes out, right? Um, like moving stages or fly gags, right? Once someone, and that someone is usually fish, proves that it's it's economical and it can be done and it can be executed. Um, Others start to look at it, and then, before it was like if you wanted any kind of automation, you went to Tate. And Tate, it's they're not cheap, but if your tour is long enough, it's going to save you on trucking and labor to where it will pay for itself eventually, right? But then you get your, second and third tier staging companies that start to play around in automation, and they're not all created equal for sure, but the price point is lower. So now tours, or now there's technologies that used to be reserved strictly for stadium shows or strictly for arena shows, now can be executed in a large theater, an amphitheater. So it you used to be able to shut down creative sometimes by saying no, that's too expensive, or it's not this tour, maybe next one, right? But now the creatives can come to you with like four different quotes that are very reasonable, and so the creatives have kind of taken control more of tours, which I love, when it's done correctly. Like when creatives are the only ones driving, it can be a problem, um, with timing and just efficiency sake. So I do think there has to be that marriage between your technical component kind of stamping up, putting an approval stamp on the creative side to say, yes, this in its current state is doable at this price, yada, yada, yada. Right. Um, but yeah, things have really blown up because, you see it in movies too.
Mhm.
Right. Like,
CGI and all that stuff. Yeah.
yeah. And it, you know, what was it? Benedict Cumberbatch, that video of him doing Smaug,
Yeah.
like that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That there's that many sensors that are sensing that many things and all, putting it together. So you're now able to, on a thoughtful budget, right? It's not bare bones. Like you're not getting this stuff for nothing.
Right.
You can put together a pretty spectacular package. And the downside to that is the keeping up with the Joneses effect, to where, you know, you just saw a tour come through town that was doing this, this, and this. It's like the same demo. So now you feel like you got to provide that,
Mhm.
or else people are going to feel like, the show is okay.
Right.
Right. And I think some of that is a little bit of a misreading. I honestly believe that most of the crowd would prefer an authentic experience where they feel like they're at the same show as the performer, right? Like I think Queens of the Stone Age do it well.
Mhm.
They have enough lights, enough like little, flashy things. But on top of that, they're like the coolest dudes ever, strutting around playing their guitars as if it's effortlessly. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's what's amazing about a Queens of the Stone Age show, right? Lights good, sounds great, love it, but they are performers and they don't need tricks, right?
Like the
Um,
Strokes, kind of like Wilco, like bands like that.
yes,
Yeah.
yep, they're out there doing it, and they've been around so long that they can do it the way they want it and build their own infrastructure. And Wilco has its own record label,
Yeah.
um, and they use it well to elevate bands that they like, and artists that they respect. Um,
Curate their own festivals, like,
yep,
yeah.
yep, and and that's so like the same thing with like the Mann, like the orchestra, right? Orchestra is not my thing, right? But I'll fight to the death that it should exist, right? That it needs that space, even if that space isn't necessarily profitable right now,
Mhm.
right? Um, and I think they hate this quote, but it's like rock pays for Bach, right? And it's, but it's like that in everything, right? Like the greatest movie makers are making movies that no one really, really wants to see. Everyone recognizes that they're beautiful, but you're not watching them 10 times. You're watching it once. It's an emotional experience and you just need to move on.
Yeah.
Right. And so yeah, I think that's, we're at that point now where you can afford to do it. It's easy to use now.
Mm.
And in the right hands, it can be very, very effective.
Yeah.
You know,
So I want
um,
to talk about what are some of your proudest shows at Mickey's Black Box that you guys have put on? Anything
um,
that stands out in particular, or maybe a couple?
Father John Misty
Yeah.
um, really stands out to me. It was one of those, um, we work with Rock Lititz on, several things, and they'll use our room as overflow if all their studios are full and we don't have shows. And so we work hand in hand with them a lot of things. We host a lot of Rock Lititz events, but uh, it's rare that you have a rehearsal facility that has an active working venue that you can warm up in. And I think that in the proposal process and offer process for getting the rehearsal space, they've been mentioning, hey, you can do a pop-up show over here, and if you do that, then you'll qualify for, you know, this grant or whatever it is. They do have, some um, incentives for using Pennsylvania vendors, you know, for tour supplies, and rehearsing in Pennsylvania. And then there's an extra bump because you have to have a Pennsylvania show as well, which is how we ended up with Maggie Rogers a couple of years ago. She didn't have a Pennsylvania play on that tour, so we literally pushed her gear across the parking lot. Um, but Father John Misty was a larger production, um, and their crew, you know, as the band as your artist elevates in tier, their crews do too, right? And so do expectations and demands. And because once you reach a certain point, the front of house guys like this show is mine, right? My name is on this show, and my reputation is on this show, so it carries with it a lot. And I think that the Mickey's as a venue, and another odd thing about Mickey's is like it's where it's at. The people that you're pulling from locally to work there aren't venue people, and simply because there are no other venues in town like this, right? Um, and venue life is difficult, you know. Uh, you really have to mirror whatever's coming in,
Yeah.
right? And if you get an intense crew that comes in, you got to be intense that day. If you bring a mom and pop crew comes in, you got to be mom and pop that day.
Or the
And
reggae band comes in.
you got to be a little reggae,
Yeah.
right? And but um, with Father John Misty, they were a creative camp. They were technically very savvy. They were very good, very pro. Um, so it was exciting to see myself and my staff try to elevate ourselves to match that,
Yeah.
right? Be that professional, be that on the ball. And the shows were beautiful. They sold out super, super fast. Um, like 12 minutes, I think. And we don't get rushes like that at Mickey's. You know, by the time people even find out a show happened there, it's been on sale for 10 days, right? Um, and but yeah, that was an amazing, amazing show. The room sounded so good.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you ever seen Father John Misty live?
I've not. I saw Fleet Foxes, but that was after he had already left.
Like this dude, like black suit, white button down underneath, hair a little messy, but like just oozes like sex appeal, right? Like is just that guy that effortlessly makes movements, and like all of it was just seamless, and like, which I think is one of the, I don't know, one of the better uh, after effects of an alter ego, right? Because it allows you to be a little more than you normally would be.
Sure.
And with his very sometimes cynical but always clever, always thoughtful lyrics and subject matter, it was just beautiful. And his new album is unreal. And I've always liked Father John Misty, and I've always been impressed when I would see him live. But this was next level to me. This was, oh, he's just leveled up for real, creatively, live, and in the studio. So that was a really proud show. That was really, really good.
Yeah, he kind of reminds you a little bit like of a Matt Healy or like a Brandon Flowers, like
Yep.
just naturally, like, yeah.
Yes, but a little more reluctant,
Okay. Okay.
right? There is this coolness to it where he's not like, this is what I am. It's just like, um, so he's hard to pin down that way. And I like things like that, like my love for Wilco. I like a sad song about happy things, and I like a happy song about death. And just so happened to have Wilco where every song is about death. Um,
So they
so
played at the Man last year, correct?
Wilco, no,
So it's been
I
how long?
I would have died a death if Wilco played
Well, I
Mickey.
saw them at at the Man the last time they played then. So it's
And
been
they played
probably
with Sleater Kinney
yes.
2018, 19.
Has
No, it
it,
was coming right out of COVID.
it
It
was
was
right
like
after
right out of
COVID.
COVID because they
Yes.
opened that whole tour with Shot in the Arm, right? Yep.
That's right. Yes, that's right. Yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but that was a co-headline, and that's like, I hate co-headline because you're either getting 15 minutes more of a band you don't want to hear 15 minutes from, and 15 minutes less of a band you do.
Correct.
Um, that night was good because both bands are great. But to me, there's Wilco and then there's everybody else. But they're playing the Met in August, the same night I have the Flaming Lips and Modest Mouse. So I'm bummed. But I do love the Flaming Lips a lot.
Oh my God. So I got a story for you. So the Flaming Lips, I go to South by every year because I just love that festival and we cover it for the podcast. It's just a great time. But the one year when they used to do shows at the Auditorium Shores, like the outdoor park, right? They would always
Right.
have like big shows. So the Flaming Lips played, and Jim James from My Morning Jacket opened up for them, and it
Oh,
was
yeah.
right after he had released his solo album, which is fantastic. Well, my buddy and I, we smoked a pretty nice joint and did not realize that Wayne would come out he played a baby. It was like an instrument that was a baby. And then he had this like harness on over his shoulders that had lights that went all the way down, like across the stage and then up like the pillars of the stage. And the lights would like be based on like the music he played. Like it was the trippiest thing that I've ever seen, and it like blew my mind.
And
So Flaming Lips,
I feel like they're, and I've heard, and I don't know for sure, but from my understanding, is all that is DIY. Like that's literally Wayne just playing around with things, and like
that
don't
doesn't
really
surprise me.
contract things out to be built. They just do it.
Yeah.
And I actually read in a book that um, after the Yankee Hotel Foxtrot fiasco with Warner Brothers, I think it was,
Mhm.
that they got gun shy, and one of the biggest beneficiaries was the Flaming Lips, because the Flaming Lips were on the same level as Wilco. They were kind of progressing in the same way,
Yeah.
and the label's like, okay, we can't lose these guys. Give them whatever they want, and that's how they ended up with like a home studio. Like it's because they really, and any people listening that haven't seen the documentary, I'm trying to break your heart about the making of. Okay, it's one of the best um, to me, one of the best music documentaries ever made. It follows the making of this record, and also, you know, a dissolving of a portion of the band as well. And it's, something's good when the protagonist doesn't come out of it looking good either. It's that honest, it's that real. Um,
Yeah.
and it's a really, really great documentary. But yeah, that was pretty crazy that it ended up being the album
Yeah.
that nobody wanted, and they let him walk with it. They let him walk with it, and to only show the insaneness of that industry, they ended up getting signed by a subsidiary of Warner Bros.
Yeah, right.
So
That's right. Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right.
it's like, this is
Yeah.
nuts,
Yeah.
but that's how it happens.
Probably somebody in the wrong position in that company that shouldn't have made
Yeah,
the decision they made.
yeah,
It's funny. I when I went to see Pearl Jam in Chicago last September, after the show, I'm walking back to my hotel and I'm walking along the river, and sure enough, the condo buildings in Yankee Foxtrot, I
yeah.
finally got to see them. Like it was the coolest. Now, obviously, it was at night, so you didn't get the full effect, but
Mhm.
I'm like, holy shit, that's where they are.
Yeah, I've been to Chicago briefly, but I've never done that or tried to find lounge acts or the loft or any of the um, any of the things that would be, not to be offensive, but my mecca, right, where I would go and truly feel reverence for what I'm experiencing.
Yeah.
um, but I would love that someday.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Chicago has a lot of similarities to Philadelphia. I mean, you've
Yeah.
lived in Philadelphia all your life almost.
Yeah, so that was 13. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, and we kind of talked before we started recording, but like, the national misconception about the city of Philadelphia, it really is grating sometimes. Like, is it for you as well, or like talk about that? Like, what
Yeah, I mean,
Philadelphia really means to you?
like a lot of it, you know like most things, it's based in truth, and there is an edge here. But it's honest to a degree, right? And even though it comes off as mean spirited sometimes, it's not really meant that way. It's just kind of how we talk. Um, and when I advance shows, it that part of my advance is, yeah, the Teamsters are edgy here, and but they'll run through a wall for you if you respect them. And it's just understanding how to speak. But it's like, nationally, I think a lot of stuff's lazy. Yes, we threw snowballs at Santa Claus, right? But Santa Claus was really, really drunk, and the Eagles really, really stunk that year, and they didn't plow the stadium, right? So, yes, there was a jail built and a courtroom built in that stadium. Yes, all that is true. But it's a very passionate and knowledgeable town as well. We know food, we know baseball, um,
We know music.
we
Like
know music, and
you
I've
talk
never,
to bands. Yeah,
yep,
bands all the time will say that their favorite city to play is Philadelphia. Like I
yep,
cannot tell you how many bands have told me that. Yeah.
yeah, and it's a love hate relationship, right? Because they always have good triumphant stories from Philly, but they also have the worst ones, right? Like, but yeah, I think that the Mann Center in Fairmount Park, which is the largest municipal park in the world, right? It's bigger than Central Park. It's big, and you can walk, from one end of the city to the other and never leave the park. And the man is plopped in the middle of that, which is interesting because you have, different rules and things that are in place. But you also get a lot of great benefits from it too, right? So, like you had mentioned, the parking, right? It's free parking. There is pay for parking, but you're only 50 feet closer than you would have been, right? Um, but once they're blowing out the plaza this year, so the actual gate will now, I think, be 75 feet further into the parking lot with a plaza that makes more sense.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
the GM there had studies done where drones would fly over during the ingress and egress and just map out choke points. And you know, it's pretty fascinating. Um, so they're doing all that, but yeah, I think it was Anthony Bourdain on one of his shows was eating at Zahav or something like that, and had mentioned to the chef that I would put Philly against Manhattan any day of the week as far as of being a world class food city goes. And the chef, who had also, I think, had some places up in New York at one point or another, said, well, because you're allowed to take risks in Philly, whereas Manhattan, the rent is so expensive that if you're not hitting in the first month, you're done. Whereas in Philadelphia, if something doesn't work the first month, you have a few months to where you can kind of morph into something else and tighten things up and adjust and still be very, very successful. Um, and before we started recording, we were talking about, you know, generations demanding more out of society, and Philadelphia demands more out of its restaurants.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need you to be fancy, we don't need you to be pretentious, but if you're putting a piece of bread in front of me, it better be the best bread you can produce right now with what you have, right? And that goes for the crappy food too. Like, we hold sandwiches in very high regard here, right? We don't put French fries on them, but we don't poo poo on that either. Like, hey, you do you. But like, first off, I want to come out and say cheesesteaks are not the official sandwich of Philadelphia.
Oh,
Philadelphians don't really eat them that much.
right.
Um, Roasted pork with sharp provolone and broccoli rabe. Um, Most people, their first one was from Denix. Uh, Tony Luke's makes a great one too. But if you ever come to Philly, go to the Reading Terminal Market, get yourself First off, the Reading Terminal Market,
Insane.
it's insane.
Yeah, it's insane.
Like,
Like the Amish are there.
the Amish are there making, and there's one thing the Amish do better than anyone else. It's slowly kill you with cholesterol and goodness, right? Like,
And
everything,
smiling the whole time.
right? Everything is pure fat, real sugar. Um, but their donuts are amazing. There's a pickle stand there that and I love a pickle. Um, but their roast pork at Dinex is good. I mean, it's otherworldly. It's just one of those things like where you eat it and you don't drink or eat anything for an hour because you do not want to, you know,
Ruin it.
molest that experience with something else. Uh, but yeah, Philly is and the man, people don't know about it nationally. Like, I see top 10 amphitheaters and it's rarely ever mentioned. But if you go on Reddit and they're like, best place to see Phish, right? People are like, the man,
Yeah.
Because first off, the man respects the scene and actually gives them a place to have Shakedown Street, provides that area with porta potties and light towers and everything they need to do it safe and right. Yeah, the man is elite when it comes to that kind of care.
And at 15,000 capacity, or is it 17 or 15?
It's actually 12,
Oh,
12 5.
I mean, it's perfect. Like,
Yeah,
it's not too big, it's not too small. You're not, spending 2 hours getting out of there. You don't feel like you have to get there 2 hours beforehand to get like a lawn seat. Like, it is. It's ideal.
yeah, it is ideal.
So talk about how you got involved with the man then.
Um, so the man is a nonprofit, focuses on um, mostly music education. It's the home of the Philadelphia Orchestra. And the place was built for the Philadelphia Orchestra, and it is a wooden pavilion that is. When I advance shows and we tell them there's no pyro, they're usually very, very upset by that and think it's ridiculous. They take one step into the place and they're like, I got you. It's all cedar, right? Like, the stage is like everything. And it's aged, it's dried, but the sound is amazing. Um, Even you get even a marginal sound guy in there. Um, he's being elevated by the room. Um, but there's some eccentricities to the room because it was built for the orchestra. So there are some rigging challenges and stuff like that. But even after working through a tour on arranging the rigging plot to where it fits in our room and it doesn't go downstage of the proscenium, and you know having your PA that far back, because they usually like to keep it out front. Um, Once we're in and the show's going on, I've never had a tour leave being like, it would have been great if I could have rigged it right. You know what I mean? It works. And and we really do take a lot of care to make it a good experience
Yeah.
for them as well. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, I just talked to a sound engineer and we were talking about how amphitheaters are overall the worst, like of arenas, clubs, that usually amphitheaters are the worst for sound. And we started talking about this, like what's cool about the Mann, and I think is an advantage to them, and he agreed, is your ceiling is so high. So the
So
sound, even if you're on the lawn, you're not losing the sound when it goes out, where like Merriweather or like other venues where the ceiling is lower, you're losing all that sound once it like basically escapes like the first 30 rows. So like
yeah,
that is an
and
advantage to man.
because in those situations you're basically sitting in the middle of the speaker, right? And the lawn is getting blasted in the face with this. And if they don't have good fills in the lawn, you could have a rough experience back there too, where you're hearing two different shows a second behind one another,
Right.
and it's just a mess.
And a
Um,
lot of times too, he said, like usually the speakers for the lawn are usually not as good as the speakers that are like at like in front of the stage. Is that
Typically speaking, yes. I know that with the Live Nation amps, the past couple of years, they have worked with Claire on replacing. So in Camden at the Freedom Mortgage Pavilion,
yeah,
this past off season, they replaced the old lawn fills with I believe Cohesion 12s, and it's 48 across the back of the pavilion, where you could, I mean, depending on how you're configuring it that day, you could run it in stereo and you could hear the show in stereo from everywhere in the lawn. Um, and because you think about audio and you're like, oh, you know, all of the innovation right now is making it lighter, smaller, easier to hang, easier to transport, that kind of thing. And it's like, that's not true. The sound is getting better.
yeah,
Yes, and are they doing it in a more efficient way, in a smaller package, easier to truck? Because yeah, the name of the game is, how many trucks do you need? How long does it take to put together? Right, labor and trucking are where you win or you lose. And I think that's where like Claire Brothers and Tate really kind of understood the name of the game. And uh, Michael Tate, who owns Mickey's and built Mickey's, he'll he'll undo a whole thing if after the fact he realizes, oh, these bolts should have been an eighth of an inch shorter, right?
yeah.
Because now I can fit four of those side by side in a truck instead of only three and having a little gap,
Mm.
right? So that kind of thoughtfulness, and I'm pretty sure he had mentioned that he based his whole business on the Ritz Carlton Gold Standard, and that which is very much what we were talking about before we started recording, about starting with the ideal and then working backwards into what fits,
Yeah.
right? Um, Whether that be financially, logistically, space wise, even. Um, but yeah,
Wow.
so
So
the lawn fill game has definitely been elevated
yeah, yeah, yeah. So you said then you did about, or you're doing about 38 to 42 shows this year.
at the Man. Yeah.
Run through like what a typical day on concert day, like kind of tell people kind of what your day is like, go through that day.
So tour usually arrives in the parking lots, depending on where they're at, and we usually are catching shows from either um, Forest Hills, MSG. Um, uh, what's that place in New Hampshire?
Uh,
It's like a venue that shouldn't be a venue, Guilford,
Guilford, yes, correct. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um,
Yep.
which I'm dying to go to. Um,
Even like Homedale, right? Like you
yeah,
might get some,
Homedale, we'll
yeah.
catch from Homedale sometimes, even though
Jones
Homedale
Beach.
mostly feeds Camden.
Okay.
But we do, yeah, Jones Beach,
Yeah.
and so, and then from the South, Meriwether, things like that. So depending on where they're coming from, usually arrive anywhere between 3 and 5 a.m. They'll park up their trucks and buses. Uh, we'll get them venue access between 6 and 7. Breakfast is up at 7. We usually do what's called the walk and chalk at 7 a.m., where the stage is clear. Nothing's been unloaded yet. You have the tour rigger, house rigger, um, electrician, the stew, and they basically just break out their tape measures and create a grid on the floor of where the motor points are. Um, and then about 8 o'clock is when load-in would start, about an hour after walk and chalk. And during walk and chalk, the basically the first thing that's dumped would be rigging gear. So where all the markings are on the floor, that's where they park their chain motor boxes, and the ropes come down, they tie them off, and then next would come lighting, video, assemble the truss, that kind of thing. And then by that point, once we're at a point where we can cut riggers, which is usually when the trusses are to trim, and trim is basically the show height,
Okay.
where it's going to be. We cut them, and then you kind of settle into building risers, stage pieces, while audio is being hung, front of house is being built. And then downstairs, there's a whole world going on, getting dressing rooms ready, getting the backstage. And I think that portion is unfairly kind of trivialized. Um, but when you think about what, touring professionals are doing, they don't have a home, right? Their options are the bus, which they just spent 12 hours on,
Right.
or a room in your venue. And not a lot of venues take care to really care, right? They'll give you a folding table, 4 chairs, and a beat up couch, right? Not at the Mann. The back dressing room's pretty nice, but your backstage, your production coordinator, which usually handles the backstage portion, um, they know what their artist likes. They know what and more importantly, they know what their artist needs that day, right? They know their artist well, and they know that the last couple of days have been really tough. I know they like this kind of beer or this kind of sparkling water, and I think we can get it in Philly, so that's what we're going to do. Um, and then while that's going on, upstairs continues to be built. Usually by 1 or 2, you're ready for sound checks, or at least make noise to ring out the PA, which, for those who don't know, that's basically different levels of white, pink noise, and the brown noise if you're into Ween. Um, and then break, and you start just getting ready for doors. That's when my focus shifts from backstage and on stage to the house. So now I'm walking around, making sure the snake is covered and that it's safe, and that there's no sightline issues. They didn't cheat a sub too far down stage to where it's then determine where the barricade's going to be, and work with the ops team on security placement, stuff like that. If it's a closed sound check, then we got to make sure that the house is clear. Although even closed sound checks, most artists, if you're doing something and your phone's not out, they don't care, right? But it's very much like comedians, right? Don't allow cell phones at their shows, and it's because they're working something out. and they don't need that to be public, and that's okay. Because that's also something that's kind of misunderstood and treated as diva-ish and whatnot. And it's like, it really isn't all that,
Right.
like, oh, don't make eye contact and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, that might have been true one day. It's generally not true across the board for any artist, although there's probably a handful. But yeah, and then you do your sound checks, and then my favorite time of day, doors. I love doors so much. It's almost
Cathartic.
irrational. It's
Yeah.
irrational how much I love doors. you know, and it's a weird job that usually in your 12th hour you're starting to wrap up, and my 12th hour we're just getting ramped up to start. And then you know, series of weather calls throughout the day, particularly this time of year. It's an outdoor venue. And if we only sell 5,000 tickets, that's actually great because I can fit them all under the pavilion should lightning strike within 8 miles. If not, I have to evacuate them to their cars and then do ingress again. And as much as I love first doors, I do not like second doors because that's just nobody's happy, just trying to get back in. But if we're good, and we nail it, we nail it. Last season we had a show with Sarah McLachlan, and I used two different weather services, AccuWeather and Weather Ops. And usually AccuWeather is very cover their butt, right? Nothing's really definitive, everything is with a caveat.
Sure.
Whereas Weather Ops sounds like they just put the bong down and they're just like, yeah, you're good. And it's like, okay. And so their forecasts for this day were so dramatically different that we didn't know what to do. But then as the day went on, they started to get closer and closer and closer together to where they were saying, 10 o'clock, you're going to start seeing some heavy winds, lots of lightning, heavy torrential rains.
Not good.
Not good. So we were able to go to the tour and we said, hey, this is where we're at. And we kind of worked with them and we determined that if we, were to cut Feist set from an hour to 30 minutes, shorten Sarah's changeover times by 10 minutes, we could get a full show in by 10 p.m. And now the risk there is, you make all those adjustments, you do the show, and it doesn't start raining until midnight, right? But I'm not exaggerating at all when I say house lights went on at 10 o'clock because the show ended. Before 10:01, I had the alert on my phone that lightning struck within 8 miles, and we would have had to end the show and clear the venue. Yeah. And that was triumphant, right? That's like, we nailed it. And it's like, this is why we do 5, 10, 20 weather calls a day. Because once you open doors, they're in your venue now.
They're your responsibility.
So, and when do storms hit? At doors, every time, right? Because that's when the sun's going down. You got the cool meeting the warm, and that's when it's most volatile. So we'd much rather hold doors for 30 minutes and let a storm pass than get people in, have to figure out what to do with them, and they can sit in their cars.
I can't imagine like the difficulty like for Bonnaroo this year, like having to cancel that festival and have to deal with all that. Like it's just so unfortunate. But I mean, what do you do, right?
Yeah. Well, one thing I think is as it's gotten worse, things are more apparent now. Like 5-10 years ago, you would really be sweating your decision. Oh, this could break up. This could not happen at all. Right. But now it's like, it's certainly going to happen. Yeah. And we have a pretty good idea of how long it's going to happen for. And then when you're at like Bonnaroo or this year at the Roots Picnic, which is also on the Mann campus, it's been raining for a full week. We just built a massive stage that required a 90-ton crane with massive wheels to drive across the main fan area it's going to be bad, you know? And yeah, you get wood chips, yeah. And then you hope, right? But for like Bonnaroo, that rain was never going to stop. It was going to be a problem. And you look at like the Woodstock 99 documentary, right?
I
Like
was there.
that's what everyone's afraid of,
I went.
right? No one wants that. So, and it's so publicized and the images are so ingrained in our brains that it's like, yeah, I don't want anything that even resembles that, even a little bit. Like if there's fans doing a slip and slide down a hill during a set, whatever, that's fun.
Yeah.
You know, when you have to wade in waist deep of a cesspool, to get out of the place, that's a problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's. I'm afraid that we really have to rethink when festival season is. I'm thinking we're going to start seeing more festivals where hoodies are required for the headliner.
Yeah.
Late October, because now, we we had Metallica at the Lincoln Financial Field. We had Kendrick and SZA there on the Grand National Tour, which
Ridiculous.
ridiculous, amazing, spectacular. Metallica was mind blowing for me. I saw things that I've never seen done before.
How was the biscuit?
What's that?
How was the biscuit?
So good.
Okay.
I went into it mocking, right, a little bit.
Old Uncle Fred.
And they came out, and it's because they don't insist upon themselves. They don't pretend to be Dream Theater, right?
They're not Queensryche.
No. And everyone in the crowd knows what they are. They know what they are. Everyone agreed, this is what we're doing. So they just did it, and it was great. It was really, really great. That tour in particular, I think the takeover idea, which I'm pretty sure came from Fish. There's a video on YouTube of them starting a rehearsal session where they're like, did you see Fish just did 13 nights at Madison Square Garden and didn't repeat a song? And they're like, what? That's a nightmare. Da-da-da. And so, and it really is. But you got two completely different shows. The Sunday show with
Pantera, right?
What's that?
Pantera, right?
Yeah, Pantera and Suicidal.
Yeah, yeah.
Amazing. Even Pantera, like they say what you want, think what you want about them personally, politically, whatever. But they hit in that genre at a time where they really understood young rage in a very, very thoughtful and resonant way. I love Fish. I love Wilco. I love The Dead. I love Rush. I love Pantera, right? I love Iron Maiden. But that was not my genre, right? My primary genre. But I understood it, and it made sense to me at the time. And it hits hard. It sounded great. Did you see the setup for Metallica? There was no roof to the stage.
I did. I mean, with that weather, that had to have been like just not good for you guys on that end.
Well, yeah, and it's one of those things like, we're okay, this thing takes 5 days to build,
Sure.
right? Like 3 steel days of production day, and and then they take a day off in between. And that day off in between, we were doing Post Malone and Jelly Roll across the street at the Philly Stadium.
Okay.
On the off day,
sure,
and then back to Metallica on Sunday. And it's not a matter of, God, I hope it doesn't rain. It's like, well, how many times is it going to rain, and how long is it going to stop work?
Yeah.
Right. And particularly the Metallica set, which has those 8 massive towers that have cabling between them that they hang the PA off of. And typically you have a high wind action plan to where you touch the PA down,
Sure.
you touch video walls down. But I'm like, you can't do that here. There's no place to touch it to because it's suspended in the middle of nothing.
30 feet
Um,
up, right?
yep. And I was told, well, you go to your. I was like, what's the high wind action plan? He goes, well, once you get alerted that there's high winds, you go to the production office, you make yourself a cup of coffee, and you come out and hope it's still here. Right? That's the plan. Right? Um, which is funny, but you know, but there's no roof and there's no walls, so you're like, oh, if this is actually one of the least likely places where something is going to happen, right? Because normally you got to lower the walls, you got to, you know, that kind of thing because they become sales quick. Um, but yeah, there was rain. There was a couple stoppages. Uh, but stadium shows are a different beast when you see the level of
Yeah.
just the hugeness of it and the amount of parts that have to work for it to work.
It amazes me too, like the level of artists that are playing stadiums now. Like K-pop artists are playing stadiums. Like, my God, like it's crazy to me, like that you're getting 60,000, 50,000, people at these shows. I mean, you expect that from Metallica or you expect that from Fish, but you know, some of these like up and coming artists like are filling stadiums. Like it's
Yeah,
crazy.
the TikTok effect has been weird,
Yeah.
especially coming out of COVID. Artists that didn't have to weren't forced to grow in bars and clubs and small festivals and stuff like that are suddenly amphitheater famous,
Right.
right? Um, now they want to bring their, every band comes up with their crew, right? And then they reach a point where if members of their crew haven't scaled with them, then they have to be replaced because you're now at a point. And some tours, the artist is super super loyal and doesn't do that, and those are the most expensive tours to run because you basically have to hire two people, right? The person who's been doing the job who can't do the job anymore, but they're not going to fire him, and then people to actually do the job, right? Um, and I'm not mad at those guys. Like I wouldn't fire my friends either, especially they've been through thick and thin, and now that you've made it, you're gonna, you know. But I also understand that the desire and the need to have to do it because now you're dealing with super super high tech, right? And millions and millions and millions of dollars. Um, so yeah, it's an interesting thing. Uh, we had one artist come in and they were like, "We're fully self-contained," and we're very definitive in saying that. And then as we move closer to the show, they started asking me questions about the PA and the lights. And I was like, we don't have PA and
Questions.
lights.
Yeah.
This is an outside stage. You said you're fully self-contained. They're like, but yeah, but we don't have PA or lights. And I'm like, okay, that's not at all self-contained then. Right? That's over half the show. Um, but that was a learning experience for that person, right? Like they didn't have the years and years of grinding it out, understanding that when you go from a club to a theater or from a theater to a amphitheater, that it's not going to come with a dinner. It's not just there waiting for you, right? Um, but then the next year, I saw that same person, and they elevated their game. Like they understood now where they were. So a little bit of patience, a little bit of grace, because it's easy to be like, oh God, what is this person doing? And it's funny sometimes, but like at the end of the day, if they're having a good day, you're having a good day. If they're having a bad day, you're having a bad day, right? Because you know, I'm very much a butler,
Yeah. You're
right?
tied in with them. Yeah.
People are coming into my home, and I need to be able to read the room. I need to be able to anticipate needs. I need to, and more than anything, I need to find better ways of saying no
Yeah.
because no doesn't work, right? You need, you know, I'm in charge of yeses, they're in charge of nos, right? I yes, yes, yes. I give them what we can do, and it's up to them to say no,
Yeah.
right? Um, so
So, any
um,
band or artist riders that you can think of that were interesting or maybe
yeah,
unique?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot, and a lot of it is, they are what they're intended to be, right? Inside jokes between the tour and the local people, right? Like to make sure you're reading the rider,
Mhm.
right? And I love them. I love the Easter eggs. I look for them, and I get excited. Who was it last year? Um,
I would imagine the Fish Group, they do something probably fun with that, right?
no, they're actually super professional,
Okay.
and they have their quirks and stuff like that for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and they are a fun crew, but to me, they're the gold standard, right, of touring. Like they just know what they're doing, and you watch this massive rig go up, go down. You would think that they'd have to be in 2 hours earlier than most tours. It's like no, they're in an hour later because they know what they're doing, and boom, boom, boom. Um, I don't know if it was Anderson Pack or something last year. I forget who it was, but in the middle of the ride or somewhere, it was an 8x10 framed picture of James Brown performing live, right? So there's tons, right, that you've seen over and over and over again. So I went on a mission to find the one sweaty live James Brown that you haven't seen before. And I found a great one where he had a mustache. He was younger. Um, and then I found a nice frame for it. We framed it up and proudly put it in the dressing room. And that was that.
Yeah.
Um, we try to actually provide things beyond the rider. We'll bring baristas in. Um, this chili banana truck that comes in with frozen bananas on sticks and puts whatever toppings you want on it. That kind of thing. Water ice. Last year for the My Morning Jacket and Nathaniel Rateliff show. Um,
Such a good show. I was at that show. Such a
yeah,
good man.
the
Crush.
guys from Angelo came up, set up flat tops in the back, and made cheesesteaks live right there. Boom, 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 boom. Right. Um, so we actually do more like from like a Live Nation perspective, um, oftentimes than the tour actually asks for, um, because we recognize that it's a tough life. Yes, they're getting paid well. Yes, they're famous. All these things that, you know, but it does not make touring and being in a different place any lonelier feeling or,
Away from your
challenging.
families. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
it's very, very difficult. And like, we've all taken vacations if you have kids to Disney or to the shore with your kids, like where you got back and you needed a vacation, right? Yeah. Touring is very much like just a long working road trip that you need 3 months off afterwards to kind of recoup. Because I'm telling you, people get loony after 3 or 4 days of 5 hours of sleep, right?
I believe
These
it.
guys are doing it for Metallica 18 months. They're 2 years on this tour. Granted, they've got it dialed in to where they're smart enough to know, well, let's just pay for an extra day and not be in a rush.
Mm.
You know, we're going to do these little takeovers here and there to give everyone a weekend off, basically. And that's the way to do it. Like
Yeah.
Fish doing 2 nights at a place, that's huge. And your crew really, really appreciates it. So, but yeah, it's tough. But yeah, rider rise wise, you know, I think I think Spinal Tap kind of really, really put the dagger in mocking it so hard
Mhm.
that now it's just a joke. There's some things, that
I'm
are
sure some of your
repetitive.
pop stars probably are a little bit more.
Yep. Yep. They have definitely, very specific candle needs,
Yeah.
and those candles are not cheap. Um, but the thing is that, you really do gotta, because no rider is 100% met all the time,
Yeah.
right? You kind of understand through the advanced process what the priorities are. Um, and you're going to do everything that you can do because there are going to be things you can't, right? And hopefully at the end of the day, that all balances itself out and everyone leaves, happy,
Yeah.
or at least satisfied with the product. So you have, you know, that thing you got to balance, right? Like you never throw a rider in someone's face, right? And say, oh, this wasn't in the rider, right? Or I've had tourists come up to me and be like, where's this? It's in my rider. To which my reply would be, okay, so all the things that I have just agreed to provide that weren't in the rider, we're going to take those away now then, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you can't, there's an agreement, there's an understanding here that your rider is your rider, and we're prepared to meet it all if we can,
Mm.
but some of it you just can't, and be in budget, and be in, so decisions have to be made. And, but we provide everything that, like I said, I'm a butler. I'm going to say yes,
Yeah.
and then figure out how to pay for it. So
So let's talk about finances for a little bit. So is there a number at the man that you have to reach capacity wise where you're like in the red compared to being in the like is there a number or does it really kind of depend on the each show?
each show is specific,
Okay.
right? Depending on artist guarantee, um, you know, because that happens well upstream of me.
Right.
Um, all year long, I do get emails from talent buyers and whatnot that say, hey, they're estimating this is going to be a 5 truck tour. It's going to be on a Sunday. You know, could you give me some ballparks? And I'll use comp shows from the past. 5 truck show on a Sunday. This is what labor was. Um, you know, bringing in racks and stacks is, this much. We kind of have that dialed in. Um, but there's some shows that don't resemble it all. You know, particularly coming out of COVID, where these deals were signed 2 years before the show happened. One of them was uh, New Order and the Pet Shop Boys did a tour, and I think the deal was signed in 2018. The show was supposed to happen in 2020. It didn't happen until 2021, and so that whole budget was based off of a 3-year-old tour that by the time it got to us, the person from Live Nation and the person from the band camp that signed the contract no longer worked for either of us. Right. And so it was a wholly different thing. And that was interesting. Right. Because then it was like, oh, this is way bigger than it was budgeted for. And, this was sold out 2 years ago. And now we have to relocate all these people because the production is gobbling up the first 3 rows of the pit. Right. Um, and that was actually not a bad situation because, both sides could equally see how each other is screwed in this scenario. So we really did try to work together to make it work and as easy as possible for each other. And it was very cooperative, coming to solutions as opposed to like sometimes it can be adversarial. Um, but yeah, and those kinds of things get a little crazy. But the budgets are usually set well in advance. There is flexibility, particularly if it's a Live Nation tour, to where if we're seeing, oh, this thing is tracking higher, or oh, they added 2 trucks, to where they can go to the agents and say, hey, this was based off of this, we're now this, we need to tweak some things, we get your approval, and they're like yes or no, and then you move on. But like I said before, I look at the budget after I assess the ideal, um, unless I'm being asked to do otherwise. Um, but I think they do a pretty good job mostly in setting the budget to where you're being responsible and the tour is getting basically everything they need, right? So
Corners. Yeah.
yeah, there are sometimes you have to make, you know, have
Sacrifice.
uncomfortable conversations that we're not there, or you know, but generally, they do a pretty good job of protecting us from that. Because like on show day, it's just us, right? It's us and them.
Yeah.
And then every show has, someone from the office will come down, one of the bookers, one of the marketing people, and stuff like that. You know, to be on hand for stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I try to stay out of that stuff until it gets to me.
Until you need to do something about it,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah.
So, is there a show over the years since you've been at the Man that you were surprised that it sold out? And is there a show that you were like disappointed in the numbers like of that show?
Well, naturally, I think Wilco should sell out everywhere they go. So that always disappoints me if they don't.
Yeah.
But that's a biased thing. Um, it's not necessarily like, so we have Weird Al coming up in a couple weeks, and that sold out a full year in advance with Puddle's Pity Party, right? That doesn't surprise me, but apparently it surprised a lot of people. Like a lot of people that I was like, yeah, they're like Weird Al, really? And I'm like, yeah, dude's a legend, right? And like, but for me, the surprise comes from like the Arctic Monkeys last year, um, Kings of Leon last year, where they sold to 13 and 14-year-old girls. I'm like, because, and then I'll go and I'll look it up and you know, these three Arctic Monkey songs have been used in 1.7 million TikTok videos, right? And it's like, and that's what surprises me is that, you know, like I would have guessed the Arctic Monkeys would have been us. No,
Yeah.
no, we were standing behind front of house. Everything in front of house was teenage girls,
Yeah.
and they knew every lyric,
Right.
and that's kind of exciting too.
Yeah. Yeah, that Kings Leon show, I was at that show. They like, well, first of all, that album is fantastic. And like they are absolute professional musicians. Like it is down to a T. Like you could
Mhm.
just tell like throughout that entire set, like they know exactly what to do, when to do it, the set
Yep,
list. It was just yeah.
yeah, and Vampire Weekend last year blew me away.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know what I was expecting. I had done shows with them in the past when they were coming up and whatnot. Um, and, always appreciated their musicianship. Um, but this transition into what's being referred to as Jampire Weekend, where they're kind of very much towing that line of jam band type stuff. Um, I don't hate it. I love it. Right. I love when people are taking risks on stage. So their entire encore is 30 minutes of
Covers.
covers
Yeah,
from the
I watched.
fans
Yeah.
requesting.
Yeah.
So we knew that was going to happen, and so we just for fun printed off a bunch of papers with songs that we wanted them to play and handed them out to people in the pit. And they ended up doing like six of our requests: Ocean Man by Ween, Eminence Front. Um, what other ones did we do? I think we did a Salt and Pepper song. Um,
Any Radiohead?
no, we didn't do any Radiohead.
All right.
But it was it was just really cool to watch these guys having fun, playing loose, and not being afraid to screw it up.
Yeah. A little
Because
bit of a fish mentality almost.
right, because
Yeah.
like a lot of it can feel so prepackaged and so performative, particularly when the artist is in ears and there's no stage monitors, right? You can feel the difference in the crowd between that show and a show with stage volume, where everyone's listening to the same show and everyone's in the same moment. Because when everyone's in ears, it really is. They're hearing something totally different than the crowd is hearing, right? And one thing they're not hearing is the crowd, you know. Um, and you'll see a lot of artists pop the one out, right? Because they don't want to be in a separate place, right? They want to be there present, but they also want to sound good. And in ears is, pretty great, especially
It's a game
for your
changer.
hearing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is. Like the sound engineer, like I said, that I talked to, he said that that is probably in the last 20 years one of the biggest innovations in live music is the IEM. Like it's just
Yep.
a game changer. So kind of tell everybody kind of like how what it does and how it does benefit the artist.
Well, so typically speaking, you have monitors on stage, and monitors are for the artist to hear themselves as well as the other musicians on stage, usually on stage left, although some artists do stage right. But stage left is typically where the monitor engineer lives, and he controls the stage sound. Um, then you have your front of house engineer who's out front who controls what the fans hear. And so typically, traditionally, it was done with wedge speakers along the front of the stage, possibly some side fills with a sub. Um, the drummer will have his own drum fill that usually has a sub and a wedge. But that bleeds over, right? You have musicians standing next to each other; they're going to pick up each other's monitors, so they kind of always had to compromise. Um, you know, the guitar wants more bass, you know, drums want more bass and drums and a little bit of guitar, some keyboard, no vocals sometimes, you know. Um, so it can get interesting. But then with in ears, you can really fine tune it to that individual artist, individual musician's needs, and um, it really just really helps them hear each other. Um, and then they have talkback. Um, you'll see it in Fish a lot,
Okay.
um, where Mike or Trey will, uh, you'll see them go to the second microphone that's behind them and just talk into it. That's them telling the rest of the guys, hey,
Okay.
you know,
We're gonna seek into this, or we're gonna, yeah, right, change.
or hey,
Yeah,
hold this, please hold this.
yeah,
Don't go anywhere,
yeah,
and usually Fish can do that non-verbally, uh, because they know each other so well. Um, but those also are connected to the in ears of the monitor guy.
yeah.
Um, and I know, like, Fish unity gain is the plan, right? When the show's going, they want their front of house guy, they want those faders to be leveled the whole way across. And Trey's even mentioned that he knows they're doing well when the front of house guy's back there like this, right? Because that means that the band is actually controlling,
Yeah.
volume and it's pretty crazy
Yeah.
to think about it because like there's very, very few bands that can do that,
Yeah.
you know. Uh, but the ones who can, it's pretty impressive to watch.
Yeah. It's so for Fish, for me, I did not get into them until like a year or two before the pandemic. It took me a while to just really kind of dive into them. And I'm kind of glad that I did it because if I would have listened to Fish in my 20s, I don't think I would have appreciated it. Like I think I needed to wait this long to kind of have like that musical experience, if you will, to be able to like fully, kind of to, dive into them and appreciate like what they really are for.
That's how I was with the blues. Like I picked up on Fish right away,
Okay.
um, right? Because I wasn't very good at nuance, right? So having something in my face the whole time was very helpful,
Yeah.
right? But then as I got older, I realized, oh, the notes you don't play are just as important as the ones you do, right? And I really started to appreciate the idea of allowing the space for the meaning to live, right? Um, like David Gilmour, right?
Yeah.
Is there a tastier guitar player out there that is so patient and just lets it unfold? Yes, he could probably do amazing stumps, right? But that's not necessary, right? And just hold the note, that split second longer. You know, and you see it in movies too. I was listening to a podcast where they were talking to the Scorsese's editor, or no, Scorsese, yeah, Goodfellas, right?
Yeah.
Or was that Cooper? Yeah, Scorsese, and talked about the scene where he's like, "Am I clown to you?" And then there was that silence, and they went around the room. They tried that silence like at 3 seconds, at 4 seconds, at 4.25 seconds, because they needed to take it right to the edge of uncomfortable, hold it one more beat longer, and then they all start laughing. Right. And it's like, oh, that really is fascinating that I know a room full of people spent a full day talking about that 4 seconds, you know? And I think with music that applies as well. You know, like there's some bands that just serve it to you on a platter, right? And that's pop music.
Mhm.
There's a place for it, right? I love a good pop song.
Sure.
Um, but the things that actually move me, right, are the ones that make me work for it,
Mhm.
right? In the hip hop world, to be JPEG Mafia, right? And Kendrick Lamar, to a degree, has kind of made that mainstream. That
Wu-Tang.
kind of Wu-Tang,
Yeah.
Common, Nas, you know, not only were they just socially conscious artists, musically they were very progressive.
Mhm.
And I'm a sucker for prog, you know, early Genesis, King Crimson, like, and I know it's very self-indulgent, right? And I get that, but that's the point, right?
Exactly.
And if that's the point, then I'm in, you know, and they're sincere about it. But yeah.
I mean, that's the beauty about just the guitar itself, because
Mhm.
you can, an instrument like that, David Gilmour, Jack White, Trey Anastasio, all three of them play that instrument completely different, yet it still sounds amazing.
Yeah.
It is. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And like Alex Lifeson, right?
Yeah.
I've never seen someone look so uncomfortable playing a guitar and be so good at it. It's just so unorthodox, right? Like I don't play guitar, but I can look at it and know. You know what I mean? I can watch it being played and understand. Um, and I like the room for interpretation. And I know some people don't. Some people want to go to a show, they want to hear the hits, and they want to hear the hits as they know them.
Mhm.
And if they don't, they get very upset.
Mhm.
And but you don't see those people at a Fish show
No.
or a Wilco show, really,
Or a Pearl Jam show,
or a Pearl Jam show, right?
which is, I'm just crushed by Matt Cameron leaving, like just absolutely crushed. Like that was a tough pill to swallow. So hopefully there's nothing wrong or anything going on, but we'll see. So I do
Well,
want to ask you a question.
he didn't.
What's
He
that?
wasn't there for their main recordings. Like he didn't show up until almost 2000, right?
He no he After Verses.
After
So
Versus.
he
Okay.
he played on Binaural. That was his first album, or Riot Act. One of those two, Binaural or Riot Act. Yeah. So as someone who does not have any tattoos, I see that you have a lot.
Mhm.
When did we start getting tattoos, and what is the one that you're most proud of?
Um, it's hard to be proud of them because they're like Cheez-Its, you know. Um, this one of my daughter, she did a self-portrait, so I had that redone. Um, I got this one after a year sober, so that's a meaningful one. It's got to get touched up. It's old, but my first tattoo is 1991, um, and it's this one, barbed wire with rose growing through it. That was an Amnesty International symbol.
Okay.
Uh, Growing up, there was no band I loved more than U2. Um, I had an Unforgettable Fire T-shirt that I probably wore 5 days a week for years. Um, and right around the Joshua Tree, they started doing the Amnesty International stuff, Human Rights Now tour, that kind of thing. So I got detention a lot, and we used to have to write essays for why doesn't a meatball bounce 3 times? Like, give me 500 words. And um, the worst was we had to write Archbishop Bevilacqua is the new bishop of the Archdiocese of Philadelphia. We had to do that like 500 times. But I said, well, can't we write letters to get like Nelson Mandela freed in detention? Wouldn't that be much worthy, and they did. They allowed me to get some Amnesty International literature and formalize it to where kids are writing letters to the government of South Africa. I don't know how many we did, probably not really a whole lot, but a couple hundred. And I don't know if it made a difference or not, but he did get released, and that's when I got that tattoo. So
That's
that's probably the most meaningful one.
okay. So my last question for you. Where and how is your ideal way to listen to music? Are you a headphones guy? Are you in the car? Are you
I'm in the
speakers?
car.
Or okay.
Um, there is a there is an interview process. I'll hear a song or I'll hear something, and I'll be like, all right, I got to take this to the car, right? And it's usually when um, I'm driving around without a destination. Um, that's that's when things will hit me, or I'll hear something. And it's funny because like it's a you know it's a 2014 Toyota Corolla, and it's not doesn't get that loud. It doesn't sound that great. It's not quality at all. But it's what clicks for me. And then aside from that, I just like while I'm working, I like having background. Um, but it's I find that it's movies now more. And I've been listening to a lot of podcasts on the production of movies and pre-production and all that kind of stuff, and because there is a lot of similarities between the two.
Yeah.
Um,
Is that something you would get into maybe down the road? Like get into
um,
movies?
I thought I was, that is something that I'm like, oh, I really do love this, and because there is a lot of crossover.
Sure.
Um, but it is something that I would probably really love to. I'd love to work on a movie set once, um, and take an active role in the production of it and whatnot. I think that would be really great. Lots of moving parts, um, and my ADHD is so bad that it really is a benefit for things like this. Um, because you a lot of times you got to hold two opposing things in your hands at the same time and be able to kind of just go with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love to do something in film or something. Um, but I love shows. I mean, I really do. Um, and I went to see the Leftover Salmon, Infamous String Dusters, and the Kitchen Dwellers last night.
Yeah,
Um,
at the King of Prussia.
yeah,
Yeah,
got like
Dawes
got
is
like
there. Dawes is there tonight.
yeah, got three songs in, and they had to cancel it because of weather.
Uh,
Um, but I really, really, really struggle not because, like, to me, I always I feel like I'm stealing. I don't feel like I earned that show by simply paying the ticket price, right? Like, so it's weird. I'm not a great concert goer, a fan, um, because I don't know what to do. Like, you don't know what to do with your hands, right? Like, um, but I mean, I go to the Wilco Festival every 2 years. Take the kids, take my wife, and it's a great event, and it's a festival. Like anyone who's never been, it's a festival for people who hate festivals. Like there's a brick and mortar coffee shop attached. There's a museum that you can go through that they do pop up performances all weekend long. There's no sponsorship except for Topo Chico, and Topo Chico is not allowed to sell anything. They have to give away their product all weekend. There's no video walls. There's nothing. It's like 1985 because you're in the Berkshires. Your cell phone doesn't really work, um, and it's just very very cool. And the art and the music is the focus.
yeah. And
I
you get
don't
to see
know
the
if they
Autumn
make money
Defense,
on this, but
right? You get to see the Autumn Defense too, man. Like
yep,
one of the
yep,
best side projects of any
yep,
band. Like they're
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. And then you get to see television. David Byrne showed up last time. Like it's like crazy.
Yeah. Waxahachie played, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
They're doing their Sky Blue Sky Festival in Mexico this uh, January with Waxahachie.
You gonna go?
No, and JD Lenderman is also on that bill.
Yeah,
The
and
last
Bailey.
time they did it, I really wanted to go. It was like Kurt Vile, Spoon. I'm like, ah. First off, Spoon to me is the most underrated rock and roll band.
Dude, their last album is so good. It's
So
so
good,
good.
so good. Yeah,
Yeah,
so good.
yeah.
And
And
live,
an Austin band too. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and Kurt Vile's my jam too.
Philly
Um,
guy. Yeah.
Philly guy. Uh, I think 25 years from now, 30 years from now, he's going to be to a lot of singer songwriters what John Prine is to the current crop.
Sure.
Just that guy who never got huge, but influenced so many people.
Yeah.
Because you hear people like Trace Atkins or some odd country guy. They said, "What's one song you wish you wrote?" He was like, without a beat, missing a beat, said "Pretty Pimpin'" by Kurt Vile. I wish I wrote that song. It's a perfect song. And I'm like, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That really
Yeah.
is. I mean, a lot of great Philly artists, man. Like the Philly, there's a good scene right now, you know? I interviewed Snack Time that played at
Yeah.
Roots Picnic. Man,
Yeah.
those guys are fantastic. Like
Yeah.
really, really good, talented guys. So, and it's
Yeah.
nice to
It's
see
weird
them.
though, like because Philly people are like, yeah, these are our people. But once our people make it, we don't go anymore. Because it's like we spent $5 on them last week. I'm not spending 50.
That's right.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm not going to see Mount Joy at the Man. I saw him at fucking Johnny Brenda's. Which,
Johnny
by the way,
Brenda's
Johnny
man.
Brenda's, man, that venue, man. I love that venue. So,
So last time I was there, I was seeing a band Frog Holler, and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was wearing a leather jacket, which I never do. It was a gift. It's the first time I've ever owned a leather jacket, so I wore it. And over my shoulder, I feel something, and I look, and I see a guy's nose is right here, and I'm like, "Are you playing the nose game?" And he goes, "The what?" And I was like, "The nose game." And he goes like, "No, I smelled really strong leather from across the room, and I was just making sure it was this jacket." And he's like, "But what's the nose game?" And I was telling him about Impractical Jokers, where they have this game where they just put their nose against somebody and see how long they can hold it there before they notice it. And he goes, "That's amazing, and I'm going to do that."
That's great.
But yeah, but I love that room like that. So we just did the Deftones at Wells Fargo Center, and it's very hard to make arenas feel like a club.
Mhm.
But the Deftones, another shocker, all teenagers,
Sold out too, right?
sold out, and it
Yeah,
was a full GA floor.
that's
And
crazy.
I haven't seen a full GA floor in like a long, long time.
Sure.
And I was out in it, and the kids are kids. They think the way kids do. They trust the way kids do, and it felt a little dangerous. And I'm like, this is what I've been missing for a long, long time. And it happened at the Queens of the Stone Age show at the Man when he invited everyone forward.
Right.
Like it was chaotic. The venue did not like it at all, but I loved every second of it because it felt like
Rock and
80s,
roll.
90s, a little bit dangerous.
Yep.
This thing could go sideways. And that was part of the charm,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Just a little dangerous, not
Just
too.
a little. Yeah. Yeah. No, I never like, we have mosh pits that break out at Mickey's, and the security doesn't know how to deal with it, and they try to stop it. I'm like, no, that's dangerous as trying to stop it.
Right.
If they're all moving in unison in a circle, they're going to police themselves. If somebody falls, they're going to pick each other up. It's a very supportive community.
Right.
That said, there's always the one asshole who wants to go windmill the opposite direction. That's the person you pull aside and you say, knock it off. Right.
Yep.
But don't
Don't
try
ruin
to
it for
stop
everybody.
it.
Right.
You're not going to stop it.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah.
You can never have enough security to where you outnumber them.
Yeah.
Right. And we had a show at the TLA years ago where we lost the house because Bad Luck 13 Ride Extravaganza showed up, and so the PA was turned off, and the crowd flipped the front of house console through cinder blocks through the front windows. So yeah, it can get bad quick.
Wow.
And you never want that to happen.
Yeah.
Right. You want people to leave being like, oh, that was crazy. Right. Not, oh my God,
Yeah.
It's but it's especially nowadays, you know, where grievance is an epidemic, right? And
Imagine everybody. Yeah, just
certain crowds you can feel, it's coming,
yeah,
and it's never the crowd that thinks they're the crowd, right? It's the older, the boomers,
yeah,
um, and oddly enough, country country fans,
yeah,
uh,
they get nuts.
but they don't think like if you were to ask them, they would say hip hop and metal have to be the worst crowds in the world,
Right. Yeah.
and it's like first off, metal crowds, give me them every day. They pick up their own trash. They're respectful because they still feel like outsiders
Yeah.
who need to earn their place,
Yeah.
right?
You're exactly
And
right.
they've always come with that mentality and that, right? And a lot of hip hop is the same way, especially younger hip hop. But yeah, country can be a little crazy.
Yeah. Watch out, Trace Atkins, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I got a big one, but it sells, man. Country is like even in Philly, like I have Camden tomorrow with Thomas Rhett,
sure.
and that thing,
Yeah.
it's 20
Cheers.
plus thousand. I'm pretty sure at this point. Um, and it's a nice sized tour.
They
Um,
always have like three or four opening acts. Like they're very the country. I do give that scene a lot of credit. Like they definitely are very much about like up and coming artists. Like
yep,
I hate like I
and
hate
they serve
this
their people.
but and I don't know like if you can speak on this, but I don't like bands now that are doing this evening with. Like because you're not having an opening band. Like I don't like that. Like I like seeing an opening band. Like
To me, it depends, right?
okay,
Fish obviously has to be an evening with.
right.
You can't have Doors at 3 in the afternoon and 7 hours of music, right?
Goose,
Um,
same thing. Yeah.
yep. Wilco's most recent tour is an evening with, where they're doing two sets, which is not normal for Wilco, right? Normally it's 90 straight through plus encore. Um, and it's interesting because it's out of necessity because recently in the last since Cruel Country and stuff, they have dabbled in the extended jam,
Yeah, absolutely.
right? Where instead of there being the one song, Impossible Germany, where there's a 7.5 minute guitar solo,
Right.
now it's okay. Why don't we get into this pocket and see what happens?
Yeah. Let's do Art of Almost for 10 minutes, you know? Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Bird Without a Tail,
Right.
uh, Base of My Neck, like that, in many worlds as well.
Mhm.
The jams in that are like, I'm like, this is very Danish,
Yeah.
right? Like it's very like
Yeah.
this is a straight up, tip of the hat, right?
Yeah. You're absolutely
And
right.
they're feeling it. And I think that with age, they're kind of enjoying that nuance a little bit more as well. And because when you've been together that long,
Yeah.
if you're not doing things regularly that are different,
Yeah.
you're gonna have resentments, and it can get sad, you know.
And
Like,
you don't want to mess with Midwestern Wilco fans.
no, you do not. But it's country does do that very, very well.
Yeah.
Lift up their own, and they understand their fans.
Yep.
They understand that their fans are economical,
Yep.
and they will shell out $100 for a ticket. But you better give me $100 worth of wow,
Mhm.
right? Um, which I'm not mad at that either, right? Like I think that's you should.
Earn your keep,
Um,
right? Yeah. Yeah.
uh, but then there are some support acts that are just bad support acts, right? Like I know you want to be heard, I know you want to be noticed, but guess what? You don't get to use all the lights.
Yeah.
You're
You're not
not
ready
going to
yet.
be as you're not going to be as loud as the headliner.
Yeah.
And there's some bands that try, and I'm right there to say, nope. You have because to me, you can't disrupt the flow of a show,
Yeah.
right? That to me is an offense.
Yeah.
You're,
It's like going through a book and a page is missing. You
yep,
know, like yeah.
yep, and then inserted somewhere else.
Right.
It doesn't make sense. There has to be a natural climax to this, and it can't be during your set, right? Um, but that said, leave them wanting more, right? Like I saw Guns N' Roses open up for Aerosmith at the Spectrum, and they couldn't help it. They just melted your face off. And then out comes Aerosmith, and they're like, going down. And you're like, all right, we're out of here. We got to go. This is, you know,
Jimmy's got a gun? What?
and I'm like, oh, I can't now. Like, that was a bad pairing because I like Aerosmith.
I did too, yeah.
Was in the Attic was like the first record that I was like, what is going on here? Like, where I felt like I felt the Catholic shame, right? Like, where I'm like, oh, I don't know if I should be listening to this.
Clutch my pearls, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, Jimmy, I appreciate you doing this. Thank you so much for talking. And yeah, this is great. So
Yeah,
thank you
thank you.
so
This is
much.
awesome.
Absolutely, brother.
Thanks for having me. And if
Hell
you're,
yeah.
if you're at the Man, hit me up.
I would so much appreciate that because concerts are not getting any cheaper.
No, they are not.
So, ladies and gentlemen, as always, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, our social media pages. That helps us, that helps the bands and artists that we feature. Also, check out our sponsor, RAR Outfitters. That's RAWR, outfitters.com. Don't just wear, RAR. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Dogg. You've been great. This is the Music Lab Podcast.